All right, all right, all right. I think we're live. A missing person on me. What is up, everybody? I'm back. Let me make sure I do this right over here. Boom. Let's see. All right, all right. Sorry for being a couple minutes late. I'm doing a little testing too, streaming on Instagram, TikTok, all this stuff. Hopefully it's not too many buttons that we touched. I wanted to watch Sebastian Rogers. The behavior panel did an analysis, a body language analysis. And for those that missed it, well, first of all, this is an autistic kid that went missing. I think it was February 26th. And wow, this is trippy. My screen looks so crazy right now. Towards the end of the stream, I'm ready to show you guys what it looks like. I'm tripping out right now. I don't know if this is good or bad. But yeah, February 26th went missing, Tennessee, from the family home, and he had left with a flashlight. Okay? And has been missing since. That's the boy right there. And last night, I think it was, yes, Nick Barris, the reporter, released some new video. Okay? Let me check it out here.
10 a.m. Now, there are no street lights in the Stafford Court neighborhood, so it is at night pitch black. What you will see here are these 2 points of light believed to be people with flashlights in the area around Sebastian Rogers' Hendersonville home. It is believed Sebastian left his home barefoot and with a flashlight sometime overnight. Since his disappearance, authorities have reviewed security video from homes in the neighborhood looking for clues.
We have had several clips that have come in.
And this one is getting the most attention, showing signs of activity around Sebastian's home the night he disappeared. You see 2 light sources, which we've circled to help you follow. For point of reference, the security camera was pointed toward the back of Sebastian's home in a common area. In the video, you see subject 1 with a light source in the lower right-hand corner. Then you see subject 2 briefly appear and move toward the first.
So, you know, it's being assumed because this kid left with a flashlight, this was around the same time that there was somebody else with him. Who was that other person? I don't know. There's a lot of speculation going on.
The first before that light source is covered or obscured by bushes. Subject 1, a few seconds later, then moves out of frame. Then, subject 2 reappears and follows subject 1 off screen. It's a short time later, and it's very vague, but then you see one of the subjects moving quickly back through the common area, and that is it. I know, there's not much to see here. You certainly cannot identify anyone, but those close to the investigation tell me the mere fact that there is now evidence that someone is in the area around Sebastian's home is significant. This video shows suspicion disappeared. Could one of these subjects have been Sebastian? Did he meet and leave with someone? Sebastian's father says his son would not go with a stranger.
It's up in the air for me because I don't think he would get into a vehicle with somebody unless he knew them.
So what exactly are we seeing here? I know investigators are doing what they can to try enhancing the video for any more clues. For now, this video is now part of the Sebastian Rogers missing person file, and I'm told it could become more significant depending on where the ongoing investigation leads. We'll be following that. Nick Barris, News Channel 5.
All right. So those are some of the kind of more recent updates. And the behavior panel did an analysis of the mother and boyfriend.
Today,
oh shit, it's kind of loud. I'm going to put the link to their video as well in the description. Turn it down a little bit.
Today we're going to break down and analyze the behavior of the parents of a little fellow named Sebastian Rogers. Craig, why don't you tell us about the videos we're going to watch?
Yeah, so Sebastian Rogers is a 15-year-old missing teen who is somewhere on the autism spectrum. We'll learn that from the parents as they talk about it. He was last seen on February 26th. He left the house with no shoes, took a flashlight only. When we say left, we don't know how or when or with who or if with who. So we're going to watch this video and work through it. This investigation, this has now become an investigation. It was a massive search for several days, and we're going to look at the parents' first interview on 7 March of 2024.
So first, just express, I can't even imagine as a parent what you two are going through. How would you describe the situation right now? How are you coping?
We're on a constant roller coaster ride of helpless and hopeless and many other emotions all in one, and it's a never-ending roller coaster. It doesn't stop. It won't stop until he walks through the door.
Thank God it's Friday.
I wouldn't wish this on anyone.
So trippy.
Not anyone.
I know we're about keeping hope alive. I'm sure that's in there somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
He's gonna
Always.
come home.
He's going to walk through that door. And the street will be flooded again with family and relatives all waiting to hug and love him. And
That boy's gonna have more friends than he knows what to do with when he comes home.
so.
All right, Greg, what do you got?
Yeah, so let's first off start by talking about there's so much information, disinformation, misinformation out there about this case that what we're going to have to do is rely on what we can see. So what we're not doing is telling you what the facts are any more than we have learned from this channel or that channel. In the beginning, there were people saying that the father was left the night before. And then there are people who say had been in Memphis for 2 weeks, a stepfather. So there's a ton of stuff here. And what we're going to do is tell you what we see. Some of you are going to be irritated by it. That's okay. That's part of it. But what I want to start with is saying this guy's a tower crane operator. You know what a tower crane is? It's you climb up a really big ladder and operate a crane. You're moving stuff around over people's heads all the time. So if he's not as flappable, not as shaky, doesn't bother me because I think, okay, here's a guy who does something that's kind of high stress for a living. That part's one thing. But what I am going to do is compare him to him, not him to me or him to Mark or him to Scott or him to Chase. We're going to look at what we see in him and look for deviations. In the beginning, she's doing an adapter that is awfully close to what I usually refer to as transfer from a True Crime Workshop, where a person makes themselves emotionally unavailable to you by some kind of movement, by too much overwhelming emotion, but she isn't unaffected. She's available. So don't take that out of your mind that just because she's swaying means she's doing something. It means she's comforting self because that release of nervous energy is comforting. There's a clear handoff from her to him. And if you don't think that's a handoff, you're not paying attention to what they're doing. That doesn't mean that she said, if I cry, if I laugh, if I do, you need to do this. It means that he sees that she needs that relief. Could be scripted. Don't know. Right. But his language in there is awfully wooden and awkward, which tells me that this is probably when they were thinking about what are we going to say. He's going to say it's been an emotional roller coaster because the language seems awkward. It doesn't seem accurate or upfront. It's okay because that's what people do. There's also a couple of other little bitty pieces of body language, and I'll go to something else, let you guys cover the rest. But he does that's fair, body language when he's asked the question that he should have considered about, I forget exactly what it is. Oh, yeah. When she says, there's still hope, right? And he's like, oh yeah, there's hope. I should have said that, should have thought of that. That's what I see in that body language. There is, however, some really interesting body language when they talk about friends and when they talk about a lot of people coming back. He's going to have more friends than he's had in the past. And her lead into that, the stress on that word friends makes me wonder, was there some kind of an altercation about his access to people that she feels guilty for? She feels something about, because that comes up pretty strong in both their body language and in her stressing of the body language or of the word. Chase, what do you got?
Yeah, and to mirror Greg, we're here to analyze the behavior only of Sebastian's parents. And first and foremost, I want to emphasize that there's an outpouring of community support for Sebastian. And our focus is solely on understanding the behavioral dynamics of what's going on and how it might contribute to Sebastian's getting back home. So this is not about assigning blame or guilt. So we're just doing an opinion here to help in any way that we can. So with this rocking back and forth, I think it's a self-soothing behavior that people very often exhibit when they're under a lot of stress or they're going through some high level of anxiety. It's a way for our body to comfort itself in the absence of external comfort. And then there's a smile when she turns to her husband here. And this is likely disbelief, not some kind of joy or happiness about the moment. This is why we talk about context and when those behaviors occur. It's so important. And for now, I'm just going to assume it's baseline until I see more with this rocking and stuff. And when she says he's going to walk through that door, or no, he says this, when he's going to walk through that door, there's a lip pursing behavior right there, which is a little unusual. We see this kind of lip pursing. And this is most often a nonverbal sign of disagreement or disapproval. And sometimes it's like a person's holding back something they don't want to say, or they're expressing doubt about what they just said. And they're not looking at each other, and they're not responding to each other's statements. And I think this could be a sign that there's no rehearsal, but it could also indicate there's something going on between them, like some emotional drama, which I'm sure there is.
Really? Damn, they picked up on a lot. The history, the family, whatever. Well, what are you guys thinking about this? I mean, to leave, I thought they believe he left like at early morning hours. I saw some people speculating the stepdad, but he was supposed to be away for work. And biological father, I don't know what they said he was doing, but he wasn't. I don't know. Was he lured off the internet? I don't know if he had access to the internet. They say he had that Nintendo, whatever it is. Not Nintendo, the Switch. I left Instagram because there was like 5 people watching. I'm sorry. It didn't make any sense. I was just kind of trying to test it out, test the waters, but ain't nobody on Instagram for me.
Especially if Sebastian's missing and they're both innocent. And in the videos we've seen like this one, where we do know the outcome, this behavior is more common in people who were innocent. But there could be more to see here. And I think this single behavior doesn't spell anything definitive. I'm not.
Bio dad is a police officer. Don't know what to think. I don't know what to think either. Luna says she thinks they think the family's involved. He's a deputy sheriff.
Hearing his name mentioned yet, but if I hear minimal mention of a missing person's name, which you've heard us talk about before, and there's no other indicators, like big piles of indicators that indicate deception, it's just a data point. So I keep that in my back pocket until I see a cluster of behavior. Scott, what do you got?
All right, thanks, man. I agree with you. I'm seeing a lot of the same things you guys have seen so far, but right out of the gate, there's a little something with each of them that bothered me a little bit. Like we were talking about before, doesn't mean they're innocent, doesn't mean they're guilty. Nothing. I'm just telling you what I see. We're just telling you what we see. He shows no emotion toward her whatsoever. It's a flat effect, and no grief, no concern, and he looks really rested. And she's that rocking she's doing back and forth. We see this throughout all the videos we're going to see today. What we'll look for during this, pay attention to this, is fascinating the way this works. You'll see them rock in tandem a few times, especially at the beginning of the first one to answer. As she's rocking, he'll start rocking with her. So he's matching her rocking. And I'm sure, like what you were talking about, Chase, the emotional thing between them is she may have just sealed herself off. She's probably in such a big upheaval of emotion. She's short with him. You know, he's trying to be cool because she's worried about a kid. Is what I would think. That's what I took out of that. Her eyes are red. She's not rested. She looks like she should look, and that upheaval emotion that we see, she's suddenly reliving that horror. I always talk about that on here. How we're not seeing that. So that's one of the things we're seeing with someone who we haven't seen with people who aren't innocent. She's got a new Kleenex. Now, if you remember, the last person we looked at that had that was crying and all that stuff, constantly wiping their eyes and doing their nose with the same Kleenex, and it's just this balled up little ball. Hers isn't; it's new. And notice how many times during these videos she doesn't wipe tears, and she doesn't wipe her nose. She only does it a couple of times because those are the times that she needs it.
So tissue to tear, tissue to face wipe ratio. So she's in a good ratio of tissue to wipe, tissue to tear, balance. So because of that, it doesn't come off as suspicious, I guess. Or, I mean, more natural. It comes off more natural. The ratio. Okay. Gotcha.
People who are faking this usually
Makes sense.
are under the
Makes
impression,
sense.
I should have tears coming out, so I'll keep doing this. And notice when she uses that Kleenex here at the first, where she just does it on the top of her nose. So I thought that was interesting as well. Not saying she's innocent, not saying she's guilty, but these are just things that I'm noticing anyway. And then she's not looking at him at all. Doesn't look at him at all, but he does look at her as they go through. So, all right, Mark, what do you got?
Yeah, very much the same. Look, time has passed since they had, notified the police, and this interview is happening. Maybe as much as, what do you think, Greg? Like 8 days or something like that?
8 days, 9 days.
Round about that. Round about that. Okay, so look, it's time for them to organize a story together.
Non-sus ratio.
If they wanted to. So, look, they could organize a story together. What they can't organize is the synchronicity of their movement. That choreography would take a lot of rehearsal, and it's consistent. She rocks back and forth 3 times. He breathes in and out. There's this waltz timing going on throughout. You can't rehearse that stuff. They're absolutely in synchronous movement. That would suggest, just as you're saying, Scott, that there is a shared experience, a shared emotion. If there wasn't anything shared, it would be very hard to organize that subtle synchronous level of
one thing I did miss, though, was that they do look at each other in that one. I for a second I thought we're looking at number 2. They look at each other for about 2.5 seconds on this one. So sorry about that. Sorry to jump in, but I had to make sure I said that.
Sure. They also talk about hope. Chase, to your point of there is something unsaid. There's a possibility here of a loss of hope and a sense of hope at the same time, having to balance the two things together, hold those two ideas. You've got to remain hopeful at the same time. You may be losing hope. So I think they talk about hope, though. There's some closed lips there from the male, from the father. He uses the idea of that boy rather than maybe she does as well. We're not often throughout this going to hear Sebastian named, often called that boy. I would suggest that's more likely cultural than them trying to distance themselves. It's more likely a term of endearment. That's all I got on that one. Early days, but looks to me pretty good from moment one, just on the synchronicity that they have together, which is tough to organize. That they could have organized a story. That's all I got on that one.
Yeah, one thing to add while we're all talking about this and synchronicity and all that is couples get to a certain behavior, Mark, to your point. He knows what to expect. He knows that how many times she's going to sniffle, how many times she's going to cry, what she's going to. He probably has some of that already in his head from the amount of time they're together. And we do it on a subconscious level even at some point.
And couples are in sync when they're being honest. They fall out of sync during those times when we're pretending.
That's one of the things that bothered me doing this. As when we first started this, I'd made up my mind. I knew I had made up my mind about something in this, and I'm just not sure about it at this point. But that's one of the things that swayed me on it.
One of those tape replays.
So first, just express, I can't even imagine as a parent what you two are going through. How would you describe the situation right now? How are you coping?
We're on a constant roller coaster ride of helpless and hopeless and many other emotions all in one, and it's a never-ending roller coaster. It doesn't stop. It won't stop until he walks through the door.
I wouldn't wish this on anyone. Not anyone.
I know we're about keeping hope alive. I'm sure that's in there somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
He's gonna
Always.
come home.
He's going to walk through that door. And this street will be flooded again with family and relatives all waiting to hug and love him. And
That boy's gonna have more friends than he knows what to do with when he comes home.
so.
Oh, there you go. Listen, how you doing? Welcome back.
So here we are, 8 days now searching for him. Walk us through that Sunday night that he went missing. So walk us through, we've got so many people who really want to know, okay, how did this happen? So kind of just walk us through that night.
We were out and about that day. We were having a really good weekend. We got home. Everything was pretty normal. He was playing in his room. When I told him to go to bed, he did. He said, "Good night, Mom. I love you." Said good night to his puppies. A little bit later, I wound up going to bed, and when I woke him up for school, he wasn't there.
So in your mind, that's usually around what time? When do you normally wake up? Around 6 o'clock?
6.
So were you instantly thinking something's wrong, or were you like, he may just be already in the shower?
I took a second and walked through the house looking for him in case he'd gotten up and was trying to get breakfast or something, because he did that sometimes. About 3 minutes in, give or take, I was on the phone with my husband. I said, "I can't find him." He said, "What do you mean you can't find him?" I said, "He's not in the house."
And so at that point, is that when you call 911, or what's going through your mind?
While we were on the phone, and I was like, is he on the other side of the bed? The normal places he may be in the house, and he wasn't. So I was like, okay, well, hold on a minute. And immediately after that, we called the sheriff's department and made the report.
I ran all over the house, outside, inside. I looked in every closet.
Within minutes, they were here. They responded within minutes, and here we go.
All right, Chase, what do you got?
There's one line in here that got to me when I was watching it, and it's when I woke him up for school, he wasn't there. Reminds me of a sheriff in Texas who said, "It'll kill you big enough to die." So there's some strange wording, but it's an outlier. So let's look into it. This could be habit, the way that she speaks and references this action. And this could be indicative of him being present or being there. I'll let you decide if you feel like jumping to something right away. For a lot of people, feel good about doing that. At this point in the clip and in the videos, I'm not seeing a typical amount of behavior here that would make me suspicious. And at the 8-day mark, they're still expressing some signs of hopefulness, which is good to see. They're looking at each other more here, as I would want to see. They're more willing to look away.
This was on day 8. They're saying in the chat, okay. I don't really pick up. I mean, I remember seeing this interview before, and now I'm seeing if I watch these guys' behavior panel, like something else comes up, but I know some people are saying sus. I didn't really particularly pick up on anything. I don't know.
Away from the interviewer and connect during these critical parts of their recollection. And the stepfather, is detailing going through a search of the house comfortably with added detail that we'd expect to see in innocent people. And in a case of somebody who's guilty, I would more expect to see that somebody would not want to go backward from the 911 call to add more details. And if you notice, that's what happens here. They go backwards. So he's comfortable doing this. It's a good sign. And when a piece of a story comes out that's rehearsed and false, the story is, it's super hard to go backward. And often you'll see people are more likely to be guilty, feeling this internal pressure to continue down the path of what makes them comfortable. And what makes them comfortable is
He was saying something's off. Alice's stepdad creeps me out.
Something that they've rehearsed. So the father's using comfortable hand gestures that are
Luffy said, we're listening to a team of people who mistook a bird feeder for a parrot. That was so freaking funny.
timed with a speech. The mother is using her eyes and head comfortably to illustrate searching the house. And earlier we talked about the mother's rocking back and forth and that we need to pay attention to it. This part here is where I wanted to look. And when there's a critical part of a story coming out that's deceptive, this takes up so much mental energy to be deceptive that the body would stop rocking to focus the mind on the story. She keeps rocking through it. And what I'll be looking for from a profiling perspective is when the rocking stops. Blink rate, gestures, facial expressions, and movements are all in line with somebody being truthful and honest. One big thing to notice is that there's no focus in either of them on managing perception and exaggerating the sadness and grief. Those are the two big things we see in just about, I think, maybe 100% of these videos. Manage perception, exaggerate the sadness and the grief. We're not seeing those two big hallmarks. Mark, what do you got?
Yeah, when I asked him to go to bed, he did, and there's a little bit of an exhale of laughter around that. So a release of tension around that. My guess is, and I'm speculating here, is you've got a male here reaching teenage, more testosterone, therefore more obstinate on the spectrum as well. So that can exacerbate the routines and you know, the sense of risk as well, doing things that are more risky. Obviously, we know that levels of testosterone, as they go up, we see less risk in the world. We'll take more risks the more testosterone that we have going around our body. That's why if you're a male and a male will have a propensity on the aggregate to create more testosterone than a female, not every day, but most days, if you aggregate all males together. And that's why you will pay more for your driving insurance, especially if you're anywhere between 15 and 23, because you see the world as less risky the more testosterone you're creating in your body. So just a little behavioral thing there of we've maybe got a male here that is seeing less risk in the world. And so it's interesting to the mother that she asks him to do something and he does it. So, no blame though. To the child. He's not a runner. He's a good kid. He's not mischievous. You know, often in examples where we do see parents involved in some way or holding back information, there will be some level of blame placed around the kid. Here, we've got no level of blame. Look, let's just look at the male here. We're not going to see grief in the forehead here because the guy's wearing a cap and he's shaded as well. So we're not seeing some of the areas of the body that we would like to see if we're to see grief, if grief is there at all. I don't know whether it is or not. We may see it in other parts of the face, but we're not going to see it in the forehead here. I don't know why. There's a deep exhale. I don't know why he walked out that door. Deep exhale there. So there's clearly a pause there before why he walked out the door. What's that about? I don't know. I'm not a mind reader, but clearly there's a pause for thought about the idea of him walking out the door. Is it a pause for thought about the possibility that he was walked out the door in some way or taken out the door in some way? I don't know. But certainly there's a pause, there's a moment taken there. Greg, what do you got on this one?
Yeah, Mark, interesting. You bring up the whole, we can't see his forehead, so we can't tell if there's grief. But I do see something interesting in the beginning. I see a grimace, kind of a grimace in his face and a deep swallow. We usually associate those with really strong negative emotion, usually. Now, it could be something else. But we just came out of the last video and into this one, so it's related to that last question around the kid. So I think it's still there. His blink rate is really low. I think part of that is his baseline. If we watch, he does a flutter occasionally, but when she starts to bring up so many people, I think this is a hot button for him. We'll find out later. When she does that, his blink rate jumps. It pulses right through the roof. And he goes into internal voice as she's talking and mills his hands. Now, here's where people automatically say that means he's lying. Well, for us, it means something's going on in his head. He's milling his hands. We don't know why. We can see it. We can't see his hands. We know he's feeling stressed, but there's a missing kid involved. Mark, to your point, we don't know their relationship. We don't know any of that. One interesting and odd part of body language to me that does occur. She says, we had a really good weekend, and he's in down to his left in internal thought and disengaged with his eyes, and then he raises his head and nods yes. Well, if he's not home, how does he know what that was, or is he just supporting her is the question. So we'll look for a pattern of that, looking for where he's trying to endorse something versus just supporting what she's saying. We really can't tell. And I agree with you, Mark, when the mother laughs about
Wendy Hamilton, thank you so much for the 5 memberships. Appreciate that. Thank you. Tracy Hillbillers, thank you for the 12 months. I was wondering if he met someone online. That's what I was wondering too. That Minecraft, I don't know if you can DM people on Minecraft, but then I don't know if he was playing Minecraft on the Switch.
He did go to bed. He's been defiant. Clearly, you can tell that. And here's an interesting one. I've tried to find out whether he was home, whether he was away at this time. She says, I went to bed. I, not we, I.
Former Texas deputy sentenced to 32 years for luring young girls on Minecraft and exploiting them. What in the hazy? Why am I doing something like this? I won't even let me open the article. Amazing. There was somebody too on an app I heard. It came out in the news. Look, sex traffickers using online gaming to lure children. I hate that this thing keeps doing that. It's so annoying. Oh my god. Wow. What the heck? My computer's doing all kinds of crazy stuff. I just wanted to look at this article. Okay. There it is. Let's take a look at this real quick. Sidestep.
As we head into the summer months, it's estimated half of the children in the U.S. are participating in online gaming.
Oh boy. Online gaming.
And most are making online friends that they've never met before.
This month, through our partnership with Ransom Life and their No Child Soul campaign, we're taking closer looks at how to keep kids safe and help parents become more aware.
As News 4 San Antonio's
Rosalie says you can text in that game.
Diana Rocco shows us traffickers are using gaming more than ever to gain the trust of young victims.
There are thousands of gaming apps online, making it nearly impossible to know where your children are playing on their phones, tablets, or gaming devices. Games like Fortnite and Minecraft or even just Xbox may seem harmless, but they have proven to be a tool for criminals lurking behind the screen.
I was terrified.
Kristen Story thought her 11-year-old daughter Brooke was safe playing a game called Roblox, which has a disclaimer for users under the age of 13, until she noticed Brooke acting secretive and spending long hours on her phone late at night.
And there were several grown men attempting to speak to her and calling her beautiful, and they wanted to see her. Many of these screen names were very sexual in nature, referring to male body parts.
Kristen put parental locks on Brooke's phone, but several months later found she had been chatting with another man, this time through Xbox.
Those were very long, descriptive messages back and forth. She was telling him about her life.
Holy moly.
He would degrade her to the point where she would say that she didn't want to live anymore.
It doesn't just happen to girls.
Predators posing as someone just looking.
I heard there was something too recently. I don't know if it was Fortnite or one of those games. I heard that there was this guy offering like tokens in a game and they had to like send pictures or twerk for him or something like that. I wish I knew what game it was. I saw it recently. I was like, what in the heck? And I guess kids, just to get those tokens or whatever it is,
looking for a friend, or as teenage girls and asking for compromising photos have been targeting boys. In 2019, 7 Florida men were arrested for the abduction and sexual abuse of 2 teenage boys after they met on games like Fortnite and Minecraft, luring them into private conversations in a chat room called Discord.
I actually started playing video games
Nicole Evangelista talks about the dangers of gaming for San Antonio nonprofit Ransomed Life, educating children, parents, and gamers through their Game Over presentation.
Games are just one type of tool traffickers use to gain the trust of their victim.
If a child starts showing behavioral signs that they're hiding something, it may be time to look through their phone. A move Kristen says likely saved her daughter's life.
Children will be one step ahead of you every time. I'm going to keep her safe in every way possible.
Experts say if you think you or a child you know may have been the target of an online
So interesting. That sounds like he wasn't home. She would have to be very thoughtful and use the pronouns if she was going to cover that. And then let's see. If you listen to her cadence slow, Chase, I'm with you 100%. We always talk about these guys managing perception. If we go back and look at the Madeline Soto case, the stepfather managing perception, the mother managing perception, none here, none of it. They're just going on about their business. And he's using big illustrators when he's telling the details of the story. Veray says larger indicators indicate more likely being honest. And then she uses big illustrators with her face. She's going from outside to inside. So those things are good. All those pieces start to look good. Only a couple of cues. Chase, yours, the word pattern shift is weird. I went to woke him up. And then the one with the endorsing with his head movement or saying, yes, we did have a good weekend. Can't figure out which it is. We'll figure out and watch as we go. Scott, what do you got?
Yeah, I woke him up and he wasn't there. I agree. I think that's cultural, because people talk like that. And I'm from there, not Hendersonville, but from the South in this area, and spent many years, in that area. Know a lot of people in Hendersonville. That's the way they talk. And so I wouldn't think there's much to that. Maybe, I don't know, but that's the way I'm looking at it. What bothers me about this is he said we called 911, and then when the sheriff's department showed up, he said they showed up within minutes, and here we go. So it's this lateral logic thing where you're presented with some facts, and you assume the dad is home during that, like when all that's happening, where he couldn't possibly be home. If she just found out and called him, and then he came, and then when he was in, where was he? We found out in
Memphis,
Georgia.
Yeah, but
or
Memphis. But let's also realize this is a thing we deal with all the time. If that were the case, Wendy Adelson, then that whole thing would not be an issue. You don't have to have proximity to have involvement. So yeah, I think it's fair to still look at him as if, right?
Yeah. So it still makes me wonder. When I first started this, I was under the impression he was at home that night and then went to Memphis that morning. So I figured maybe he's the last one to see the kid. And I went down this road of looking at him from an entirely different angle and couldn't believe how relaxed he was. And I thought, this is a cold dude, man, because he's so relaxed. And so, but there are some things, if you look at it from that angle, you'll say, you know what? I think this guy there might be something up here. But if he's been in Memphis 2 weeks, then they don't hold up to that. So it could go either way. But anyway, back to the lateral logic thing. You're given information, but there's that one little piece missing. You don't get in there and look for that one little piece of information, and you accept everything and move on without thinking about it. And that's what I had done. And I love lateral logic, so I can't believe that got by me. But they do, in this one, they don't look at each other or touch each other either. She's leaned back or leaned forward as a grieving person usually does. That's totally normal. He's leaned back a little bit. That's another thing that made me think about him some. But he's probably, he's not as emotionally involved in this as she is because it's not his real son. I know that sounds horrible, but there's...
How dare you! Step parents are parents too!
There's a big difference there when you're mad at this. You say you don't get along with this kid's father. And I don't know how long these two have been married. May not be very long. Maybe doesn't have a good relationship with the child. So that could be the reason for that. we're not seeing any comparable stress on him at all. He looks fairly relaxed, which makes me think he's so relaxed that he's not worried about thinking, I did this, I've got to watch it. Back to perception management. They're not doing any of that at all. It's like they don't care, because if you didn't do it, you shouldn't care. There's no reason to do that. So that's really interesting. His voice doesn't sound stressed. He doesn't show any upheavals of emotion or any.
Bunny Gaffney, thank you for the 5. Says him and mom got into it. Mom shoved him out the door. They went out to look for him and he was gone. Hence the flashlights. Is that just a theory, or are they talking about that somewhere? I should check while we're listening to this. I should check what's going on Facebook. The world of Facebook. These kids just going missing without a trace. They got to be somewhere. And there's 2 Tennessee missing people. Well, one's Riley Strain, the 22-year-old, and the other one's Sebastian Rogers. Sebastian Rogers, there's video of, and was highly intoxicated. And wait, did I say Sebastian? I'm sorry. Riley Strain. I don't know if I said, what am I talking about? Riley Strain was highly intoxicated, was seen on video. Sebastian Rogers, the only thing we have is autistic, February 26. Mom wakes up and he's gone. And there's video of 2 flashlights at night. Let's see what's going on in these Facebook groups. The dark world of Facebook. So to many people, don't seem to think Sebastian wouldn't have left without shoes on. That's the thing. So he left, they're saying, without shoes on and a flashlight. And I guess he loved his flashlight. That's what they say. So he took his flashlight with him. How would anyone know that? His mom is sure he left without them. Maybe he only has so many shoes, and she's counted them for still being left at home. Or maybe your kids wouldn't leave a house without shoes, but not all kids are the same. I'm not trying to get rude or sound rude. I'm just trying to make the point. Something out there. Maybe Sebastian did leave and went to wander and got whatever. It's just a theory. Oh. Somebody asked Christopher, the Christopher Proudfoot, were you in Memphis all week until Katie called saying he was missing, or did you go back and forth? And it looks like he replied back saying, I cannot give the details of the, I don't know, day or something, but I can say that I was away from the house for a while and returned home as soon as I could from Memphis. I can't say what I know, nor can you ask me. Let's pull the big screen. That's the message right there on Facebook.
Emotions at all, really, as he goes through this. He does look at her a few times throughout the interview, but she never looks at him outside the 2 times that we'll see them look at each other when they go through here. But neither one has said the child's name yet. Doesn't mean anything. Some, in this situation may not mean anything, but we haven't heard his name yet, except from the interviewer.
One of those tape replays.
So here we are, 8 days now searching for him. Walk us through that Sunday night that he went missing. So walk us through, we've got so many people who really want to know, okay, how did this happen? So kind of just walk us through that night.
We were out and about that day. We were having a really good weekend. We got home. Everything was pretty normal. He was playing in his room. When I told him to go to bed, he did. He said, "Good night, Mom. I love you." say goodnight to his puppies. A little bit later, I wound up going to bed, and when I woke him up for school, he wasn't there.
That is a weird. I guess her wording is just kind of weird. When I woke him up from school, I guess she meant to say when I went to go wake him up, he wasn't there, but it almost sounded like you woke him up. I'm going to analyze the vocal.
So, come up for school, he wasn't there. And when I woke him up for school, he wasn't there.
So, in your mind, that's usually around what time? When do you normally wake up? Around 6 o'clock?
6.
So, were you instantly thinking something's wrong, or were you like, he may just be already in the shower?
I took a second and walked through the house looking for him in case he'd gotten up and was trying to get breakfast or something, because he did that sometimes. About 3 minutes in, give or take, I was on the phone with my husband. I said, I can't find him. He said, what do you mean you can't find him? I said, he's not in the house.
And so at that point, is that when you call 911, or what's going through your mind?
While we were on the phone, and I was like, is he on the other side of the bed? The normal places he may be in the house, and he wasn't. So I was like, okay, well, hold on a minute. And immediately after that, we called the sheriff's department and made the report.
I ran all over the house, outside, inside. I looked in every closet.
Within minutes, they were here. They responded within minutes, and here we go.
So you said you were on the phone with her, so
Yes,
you were not home.
No, ma'am.
Okay.
I was.
Whoa, hold on 1 second. So it's kind of weird.
Up and was trying to get breakfast.
Just be already in the shower.
I took a second and walked through the house looking for him in case he'd gotten up and was trying to get breakfast or something, because he did that sometimes. About 3 minutes in, give or take, I was on the phone with my husband. I said, I can't find him. He said, what do you mean you can't find him? I said, he's not in the house.
And so at that point, is that when you call 911, or what's going through your mind?
While we were on the phone, and I was like, is he on the other side of the bed? The normal places he may be in the house, and he wasn't. So I was like, okay, well, hold on a minute. And immediately after that, we called the sheriff's department and made the report.
I ran all over the house, outside, inside. I looked in every closet.
Within minutes, they were here. They responded within minutes, and here we go.
So you said you were on the phone with her, so you were not home.
No, ma'am.
Okay.
I was at work. I'm a tower crane operator, and I was working.
It almost sounded like he was there, but yeah, he was away working. That's easy to verify. I would assume it's easy to verify.
In Memphis at the St. Jude Project. So it's, I have an earpiece in that talks to my phone. I have another earpiece in that does the radios. So when she was talking to me, it was like, what? I was confused. We talked about where he could possibly be, and then we went from there and led to calling the cops, and here we are now.
And within minutes, they're there at the home.
Yes, ma'am.
It was rapid fire. They had cars. They had cars from here down to the
main
road, as far as I could tell.
So what's going through both of your minds? I mean, are we panicking? Is it this, I think he's probably at a neighbor's house, or what are you thinking?
My son doesn't run. He's not a runner. He's never run away before. I don't know why.
So they did a 3-way call to 911?
I don't know why he walked out that door.
I mean, he's a good kid. He's not he's not a mischievous child by any means. But there's answers to questions that have no answers, or questions with no answers right now that we are searching for desperately, and we just don't have that.
Chase, what do you got?
One thing I would really expect to see with these questions that are being asked is what we call target locking behavior. And this kind of pairs in with something called confirmation glance. And this one behavior I've seen in somebody who's guilty every time they have this behavior. And it's typically during two super key points here. And the first one is when a super critical question is being asked that can help them to shape their perception a little bit, when their innocence can be displayed. Second is during and just after their answer to make sure that the interviewer believes it. And we're not seeing any of this here at all. When she's talking, he is comfortable looking at her, and this is more common in innocent people, where guilty people want to do two things. Number one is keep an eye on the interviewer, and two, avoid looking like they're influencing or persuading the other person by looking at them. I know it's irrational, but that's what the fight or flight brain believes. The mother and father or stepfather have an equal amount of exasperation with not being able to understand why he's missing. And the mother is comfortable guessing he walked out the door instead of introducing and injecting ambiguity and uncertainty about some course of events. So that's very good. So keep in mind, when we see small behaviors like Greg talking about him grabbing his arm just a second ago, one of the reasons we talk about clusters so much, pointing out one behavior in isolation is next to meaningless. We've got to have these little clusters of behavior for anything significant to come out of it. That's all I got here, Scott.
All right. Yeah, I agree. It's this in this video. It's hard not to go over the same stuff, so I'll try to knock out a bunch of the same stuff. But Greg, I agree with you. When he's scratching his arm, it seems like something's up there. I think all that's happening here is he's trying to find something to say, so he'll have something to say. I don't think he's a big talker when it comes to.
Maybe he's just itchy. Oh.
Tell us what you think about so-and-so. I don't think he's one to drone on and on. So I think for each one of these situations, he's just looking for something to say. He's just trying to be involved, trying to say something.
Scott, one thing I would add, I think it's really easy to pick a thing and lock down, and not just forget body language, the scratch. The whole point I was making is that, and then he opens up. So there's a difference. It's also the same thing why didn't you choose this question instead of that question? Look, people are under stress. They make different decisions. And this is a reason, like statement analysis, you got to be really careful with where you assign words to people based on where they're from and all that kind of stuff. Just a thought.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And then when he's trying to look more concerned than he's very concerned. Don't get me wrong, but he's trying to look concerned. And I'm under the impression that because he looks concerned for a second, then he goes away fairly quickly. Real emotions stick, even though he's feeling these emotions. He's not deep in it like his wife. And my father always said, if in a marriage, if one of you is in the ditch, in other words, one of them is down, so got a lot of stuff going on, you can't get in the ditch with him, or you'll both be in the ditch. So he may be one of those guys. It's like trying to stay out of it and trying to be I'm the guy here and I'm going to take care of everything. So that could be what we're seeing as well.
Okay, let me get some of the member chats. P. Baker Brunswick, thank you so much for the membership. Wendy, thank you again for the gifts. 5 memberships, amazing. Ido Silva, thank you for joining up the membership. SW4x4 Explorers, thank you for the 12 months you've been a member. Sebastian hated touching the ground without shoes. Oh, that was a weird one. As a child, as a child, he stepped in an anthill per his bio dad, who has spoken up. Yeah, so why would he leave without shoes? I forgot about that story. That's true. I wonder if it's mentioned in this interview. He doesn't like being barefoot, but this kid left barefoot that night with a flashlight. P. Baker Brunswick. Oh, you've been a member. Looks like 12 months. Thank you. My favorite channel. Thank you so much. And Walkabout Bridge. Thank you for the 10 months. Amazing. Sled. Natalie, thanks so much for gifting 5 memberships. Woo! Gracias. Man, I don't know what to think, man. I want answers. I feel like we'll get answers faster probably on Riley, the guy that was highly intoxicated. I mean, where could that guy be? I mean, I was just thinking maybe the waterways. I don't know where that guy could be. I feel like we probably get answers faster on him than Sebastian.
As well, which I'm tending it starting to look like that a little bit for me. But he doesn't really even answer the question there. It's just, he doesn't even answer it. And of course, she goes along showing the same emotional transmissions and transmitting.
Beto says catfish by some older dude is the best I can come up with. That's a possibility.
The same thing that she has been up to this point. So nothing's changed much for her. She's just showing us all the body language of a grief. And
I thought it was, I don't know if it was the mother or the bio dad or stepdad. I thought they say he had just started getting into kind of liking girls and stuff. I don't know if he was lured, like catfish, like Beto was saying.
Being mother. Try not to repeat stuff you guys just said. Mark, what do you got?
Yeah, just one thing is that when he was talking about being up in that crane tower early in the morning, receives the call. He's got his walkie-talkie in one ear and his phone in the other ear. I kind of thought, wow, that's pretty early to be working. And then I realized Mrs. Atwood out the back here she's got a tower block being built behind her place, and I can see the crane as we speak, and it's moving around, and that starts as soon as the sun comes up. So I don't know at what time the guy must climb up that, in the dark, which wouldn't be a job that I would want to do any day of the week. So, look, often we don't understand the working times of other people, what their work is like. And it's very easy if they're doing something which is outside of our scope for us to go, well, that's really odd behavior, until we look around and go, for their life, it's not odd behavior at all. That's all I got on that one. Let's have another.
I have a buddy. Check this out. A buddy named Kyle, and his sister, hang on. His sister, Kira, met one of those guys as he was climbing, going to the tower. She could see him from their window, and as he climbed the thing, and every day she would see him doing that. Make a long story short, they got married. He'd go up again, down again, all that stuff, and she'd see him every day a couple of times, and they got married.
I don't know whether I see the same relationship for Mrs. Atwood and the crane driver.
Another Atwood incident.
You were not home.
No, ma'am.
Okay.
I was at work. I'm a tower crane operator, and I was working in Memphis at the St. Jude project. So it's, I have an earpiece in that talks to my phone. I have another earpiece in that does the radios. So when she was talking to me, it was like, what?
And interesting enough, I came across this Facebook post where they're talking about behavior panels analysis of Sebastian's, mom and stepdad or whatever. And somebody posted here anonymously, after the behavior panel's analysis yesterday, I felt guilty for my thoughts. I felt dirty, ashamed of myself. Needed to take a shower. Then the rest of the video came out, and now I don't know. Somebody said here, I go back and forth several times a day, and if they're involved myself, I'm sure we aren't alone. The details are beyond crazy, and I'm with BioDad. We're missing some pieces to the puzzle here. I'm so torn. I hope that Sebastian is alive somewhere. And somebody else said, in Gabby Petito's analysis, they claim that she was the abuser and Brian Laundrie wasn't. I think they lack skills when it comes to detecting DV, which we know the stepfather has a history of. Oh, allegedly. I mean, I heard some crazy stuff. I ain't gonna lie. I had somebody DM me that knows somebody that knows the stepfather, the guy right here, and she was saying some pretty crazy stuff. Allegedly, this guy has multiple marriages, but she said that's very common in the military. A lot of cheating happens because people go overseas or on duty long periods of time. This person had never met Sebastian, just Christopher. And just that he's short fused. And things about Sebastian as well, that he's had problems allegedly. I don't know if it's true. He was a troubled boy. And there's some type of blended family. And she said a lot about the kid, Sebastian. It's just that he was troubled, not what they're saying. So I don't know what's true or not, you know?
I was confused. We talked about where he could possibly be, and then we went from there and led to calling the cops, and here we are now.
And within minutes, they're there at the home.
Yes, ma'am.
It was rapid fire. They had cars. They had cars from here down to the
main
road, as far as I could tell.
So what's going through both of your minds? I mean, are we panicking? Is it this, oh, I think he's probably at a neighbor's house, or what are you thinking?
My son doesn't run. He's not a runner. He's never run away before. I don't know why. I don't know why he walked out that door.
In the chat, Janet was asking, how far is Memphis from where they live? Does anybody know in the chat how far that is?
I mean, he's a good kid. He's not a mischievous child by any means. But there's answers to questions that have no answers, or questions with no answers right now that we are searching for desperately, and we just don't have that.
Is there anything that happened that day that you think back and that there might have been a reason he was possibly upset, or something outside that could have enticed him to go outside? Was there anything that came to mind?
We've been combing over that day and even the weeks before he left, and I hadn't been able to figure it out. He's that morning he was laughing, he was joking. Everyone we were around that day agreed that he seemed like he was in a good mood. He was behaving. It'd make more sense if we'd been fighting.
Or he'd been in trouble, but he hadn't been in trouble. So, I mean, the $1 million question, why did he go? And the other $1 million question is how.
4 hours? 3.5 hours?
What about social media? Is there anything that, anyone he could have contacted? I understand he was somewhat of a gamer, or what was he? There was a video game he loved, right?
Minecraft. He loves Minecraft. The game that he has is not online. He has the Switch. We don't, because of how social media can be, he doesn't have accessibility to communicate with folks on the internet.
I mean, we have a firm belief that we just don't feel that right now that he's capable of having that kind of responsibility. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, his phone is locked down, his computers, his gaming. He doesn't have a gamer tag. He doesn't have online capabilities with games. I mean,
we've combed every electronic. I
mean, we've cooperated with all the authorities as far as anything they've asked us to provide, we've provided, and still just don't have any answers.
Mark, what do you got?
Yeah, the $1 million question, or the other $1 million question, how? How did he go? And we get quite a cluster of gestures in the face there and gestures with the body. We've got kind of a closed lip frown, which turns up at one side, almost in kind of a contempt kind of way. We've got, certainly it's an asymmetrical gesture by any stretch. Hands go out in a shrug. There's a sideways look on that. Well, so it's quite a shift from what he's done before on how did he go. I would suggest what he's saying here is that he feels that's the question. How did he get out there? That's key. And I guess at this point, it's moving from a a search to an investigation. And so I guess he's putting the stress on this. The how needs to be investigated, not the where is he. Where is he? They don't know where. They haven't found him at this point. We now need to go back and work out how did he leave. And it's maybe, I would suggest the stepfather is saying he didn't leave potentially on his own, or that's a possibility that needs to be looked at. If somebody's to think he's guilty of something, that's an interesting place to go. If you're guilty, to go, let's investigate this. Let's work out how he.
And thank you for the coins on TikTok. We're streaming on TikTok too, the dark world of TikTok.
left to put stress on that. If I were guilty of something happening in that house, I'd want people to be looking out, not in for stuff. Greg, what do you got on this one?
Yeah, I agree with you, Mark. There's a whole lot of adapting, and when they're asking him any reason, he's feeling awkward, you can tell. But this guy also, if we pay attention to him, most of his eye movement, the entire thing is going to be down left, where we think of that as internal voice, as he's digesting questions and how things are behaving. I don't think it means he's calculating and doing all that. But he's now moving, and he's got a heavy internal voice, and his respiration's up. I think this is the crux of the matter. What happened to this kid? Where did he go? I think some of what you see in that kind of contempt or twisted face is when they call him a gamer. I think he's thinking, that might be a stretch. He plays a game and he does this. He doesn't have a tag. What would be interesting for me is we all know that people who are on the spectrum, those especially who are really profoundly affected, often can be very good at remembering exact things. I would check the father. He's used the word he has no gaming tag. Father may have his own accounts. Kid may have ability to get into that, figure out how to make contact with people in a way that he doesn't understand. So I'd look at all that kind of stuff.
That's true. That's true. I mean, kids are smart, got all kinds of workarounds and ways to bypass whatever, you think they're not chatting or on the internet, and somehow they are.
But she's certain that this kid left. She appears to be certain. Now, we all know that when someone is missing, it's a lot easier to think that they left than they were abducted or somebody did something to them. So it's always a way of holding out hope. And Chase, I agree with you earlier with his pursing lips when he was saying he's going to come home. We're going to see a little bit more of that later. I think this guy is a very practical, very pragmatic person in appearance, and maybe that's where he's at. But the dad's then goes to internal and emotion, as they're starting to say, how did he get out? That's when, Mark, I think you're seeing all that behavior. Like, I don't know. How would he get out of here? And I agree. He wouldn't come into my house and look and see if you can find how he got out. That would probably be the last place you want to go.
I think it would be like funny as hell to be like interviewed by these guys or so. I don't know how they would be able to examine me. And then they're just like, your eyebrow twitched and your nose did a shift to the side and you licked your lips and you swallowed, and I saw the skin moving to the side, and you scratched your beard and you don't ever look at the camera. Why don't you look at the camera? It would probably be funny as hell. I couldn't imagine, like, I wonder how we would do that. Just examine me or one of my interviews or something like on News Nation. Just dissect me. Why are you breathing like that? Why are you not talking so loud or low? Or why are your upper lip keeps covering your teeth, but your bottom lip shows your teeth? Like, all kinds of shit, man. Just examine, dissect me, all that shit. Deception, not deceptive. Breathing patterns.
When he does here's one thing that you shouldn't do. You shouldn't do. When somebody says, hey, tell me whether you're innocent, and you say, we're cooperating with the police. That doesn't look good. It doesn't look good. And that's the one thing, one of the first things I saw about this in the beginning was a little clip from him on one of the news channels that says, we're cooperating with the police. That immediately gets your hackles up and you go, well, we better go check and find out what's going on with this guy. Scott, what do you got?
All right. Yeah. When talking.
Well, the one thing, Nick Perez, which that guy's doing a great job covering this story. Nick Perez, he's a local reporter out there. You can find him. I think he's on other platforms, but to me, most notably on Facebook. So you can go check that guy out, Nick Perez. Just has really good information. And I forgot where I was going with that. Yeah, I'll have to get back to that. Oh, what Nick Perez had said. He said that, yes, the parents are cooperating with police, but at one point, I think stepdad said that, like, we're cleared or something like that, and he said that's not true. There's nobody that's cleared. That's the only thing he was saying about that. I believe that's what he said.
About the father, she says, about the real father, she says he talks to his son on a regular basis. Now, a lot of times you'll see that and go, oh, it's something wrong. But I think the mother and the father, obviously, they're divorced. There's probably a little rift going on there. So when she's talking about that, she probably calls him his son. You know, you come get your son. You do that. That could be, it may not be. But I think maybe that's why she's using that instead of saying the child's name. He's adapting with his hands, and she's still rocking, and he gets in sync with her for a second. But his breath rate goes up, and it's fairly heavy for a second. But because I can't decide this one, like I told you before, I'd gone down a whole road that I've got more information. It's like there's no road there, and his eyes are darting around, so that makes me it puts me a little off there for that question there. Then he looks at her again, and she never looks at him. Then he adds another cornball answer to that $1 million question. And the same thing for the second $1 million question. What happened and how, where'd he go and how? My question would be, what happened and where is he? But, you may not think like that along those lines when you're in that position. And where did like you were saying, where did the question about cooperating with all the authorities?
Okay, Tay-Tay's mom says, does Minecraft on Switch require Nintendo Online? Require, yes. It is available on Minecraft for Nintendo Switch. To play online on a Nintendo Switch, you must have a Nintendo Switch Online subscription. Okay. I don't know anything about Switch. Oh, that would be actually kind of funny. Sparrow says, I think behavior panel should watch iCkEdMeL during a chase. It would be interesting to see them react to a chase, them themselves react to a chase. I don't know how their audience would take it, but if they just jumped on one night when the chase was happening and they described the criminal and all the driving patterns and stuff, and then once they get out,
authorities come into play. Where do we hear that? He just threw that in there. I didn't see any place to even spark that as he went through. So maybe he's, I don't know. Maybe he's worried about that. I can't really tell. But his so far his innocence has been in question here. So why would he add that? That makes me suspicious there. And then again, toward the end, they start syncing together as they're rocking. Chase, what do you got?
Yeah, I agree. And when he says it make more sense if we had been fighting, the statement is really revealing. There's a good chance parents who were involved would be far less likely to bring up any mention of fighting or anything negative. They tend to default to pretending that everything was perfect. Fighting. And when he says it make more sense if we had been fighting, the statement is really revealing. There's a good chance parents who were involved would be far less likely to bring up any mention of fighting or anything negative. They tend to default to pretending that everything was perfect. Nothing bad ever happens. The dad also mentions him being in trouble, which is also a good indicator that he's genuinely missing here because it's not trying to pretend to be perfect. There's a strong confirmation glance after the mother says the word switch. And she's looking over to him right at that moment when she's talking about the Nintendo machine. This is most likely to see if the reporter, or she looks to the reporter to see if the reporter knows even what that is, because it's probably still a foreign object to the mom. So she's making sure the reporter knows it. Then they're talking about not having the answers. This is common. They're not introducing finality, complexity, or ambiguity into the situation. There's a huge difference between being at a total loss for what happened And what we've seen in other videos where the parents speak in terms of the case being unsolvable, all resources have been exhausted, everything that could have been done has already been completed. This is very different than that. So their behavior overall is apathetic and sad and not concerned with displaying emotion and managing perception. Those are the two big things that are missing here. There's not a lot of display of emotion, deliberate display, and managing perception. Keep in mind that nothing we say means anybody's innocent. And in all of our videos, people tend to think we're analyzing people or the case, but we aren't. What we're telling you in every video is about the presence or lack of behaviors. So if you hear somebody say anywhere on YouTube that they believe something and they don't point to the observable behavior into what they're saying, then you're hearing opinion about the person, not the behavior. So keep this in mind if you're watching anybody, and ask yourself, do they refer to what they think to specific and something that's actually observable? And y'all talking about him going into the how, I would say with him talking to police in 90% of these cases, if you find out the how, that usually leads to where. So that might be something he picked up from the detectives. Mark, what do you got?
I've been.
All right.
I think we're all done. Yeah.
It looks like he's playing with those.
Oh,
all the time.
A whole new award. It's going to cost.
Love it. Good. Because this is a dark side.
Is there anything that happened that day that you think back and that there might have been a reason he was possibly upset or something outside that could have enticed him to go outside? Was there anything that came to mind?
We've been combing over that day and even the weeks before he left, and I hadn't been able to figure it out. He's that morning he was laughing, he was joking. Everyone we were around that day agreed that he seemed like he was in a good mood. He was behaving. It'd make more sense if we'd been fighting.
Or he'd been in trouble, but he hadn't been in trouble. So, I mean, the $1 million question, why did he go? And the other $1 million question is how.
What about social media? Is there anything that, anyone he could have contacted? I understand he was somewhat of a gamer, or what was he? There was a video game he loved, right?
Minecraft. He loves Minecraft. The game that he has is not online. He has the Switch.
We don't, because of how social media can be, he doesn't have accessibility to communicate with folks
on the internet.
I mean, we have a firm belief that we just don't feel that right now that he's capable of having that kind of responsibility. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, his phone is locked down, his computers, his gaming. He doesn't have a gamer tag. He doesn't have online capabilities with games. I mean,
we've combed every electronic,
So, I mean, the Minecraft on the Nintendo Switch console is a multiplayer game by default. Local players can join your game by attaching controllers and pressing plus on the controller at any point during the game. There are two network modes that can be chosen from the main menu: online network and local network. Can you play Minecraft on Nintendo Switch offline? It says yes, as long as you aren't doing anything that involves online play, servers, realms, playing with friends, that type of thing. You'll be available to play offline. Now, well, I don't know. Let's see here. Well, I don't know. This is posted from 5 years ago. Somebody said Minecraft on Switch now requires Nintendo Switch Online. Not happy. I've been playing Minecraft online for about a month, and suddenly I can't join a realm unless I subscribe. What's the deal? I never did a trial of the beta, and I didn't need to play online until Nintendo Switch Online launched. Minecraft has its own online cross-platform system maintained entirely by Microsoft, right? Huh. I don't know. Maybe at some point they were kind of forcing people to do certain type of game types. So I don't know. I really don't know if he would have found a way to go online.
Very electronic.
I mean, we've cooperated with all the authorities as far as...
Pepper says you can play it in single-player mode without any internet connection. Okay.
Anything they've asked us to provide, we've provided, and still just don't have any answers.
Did he have any friends that could have possibly contacted him in some way on his phone?
All his friends at school have been questioned to my knowledge, and none of them knew anything.
So this big question mark. He's vanished.
Yes, ma'am.
No one can figure out where or why. All right. So let's talk too about the relationship involved, because the biological father is very much involved in Sebastian's life as well.
Yes, ma'am. Very much.
Right. And how would you describe that relationship, the two of them and the four of you?
It's relatively good. I mean, we talk regularly. He talks to his son on a regular basis, sees him on a regular basis. He's involved in school and therapy. And, I mean, he doesn't have any extracurricular activities, but I can tell you now, if he did, his dad would be in the front row.
In two different households, and the communication between the three of us is great. I mean, yes, we're just like every parent. We all have our disagreements, but in the end, we come together as a team and we work and we come up with solutions that as we best see fit. I mean, I'm almost in contact with him almost daily.
Squeaky Wheel was asking in the chat, does he have internet access at school, though?
All right, Greg, why don't you go first?
Yeah, so this one I'm only going to cover a couple of things. If we want to talk about the relationship between the family, there's certainly something going on here. But anytime you get a family with a step parent and all that kind of thing, there's going to be some kind of disagreement. But if you don't believe it, he tongue juts when they're talking about how good the relationship is. She uses a qualifier relatively, and she does purse lips. So there's something going on between them. There's some baggage back and forth. It could be around... I read that he's pretty stern about the use of the cell phone, and he says that here, says that we don't allow him to use it freely and that kind of thing. There could be disagreement with the father about that, and then you get to this baggage about where a child lives. So I'm not going to read anything into it. I'm just going to say you might even get different opinions from the father than you're getting from the stepfather and the mother, because that's the way relationships work out. You don't tell me. And then I've recently read that the child Sebastian was supposed to move back in with the father at the beginning of summer. Look, while we're at this, let's stop for just 1 second and say, do anything you can. Go look at posters of this kid, push these posters through your social media network, do anything you can to help people find this kid, whether he's safe or whether he's not safe. Let's get this kid some help right now and do as much as you can. Social media is a powerful tool. Broadcast this across everything you own, and we may actually get some help for this kid. Chase, what do you got?
Totally agree. So the stepfather here seems to be eager to grab onto this big question that the reporter brings up of not being able to find where he is. And since we aren't seeing clusters of other behavior, I think this is more likely out of a desire to appear innocent, which, keep in mind, you still see in innocent people who logically understand that they're probably a suspect. Then how would you describe his relationship? And talking about the biological father, this is a question from the reporter. There's a strong pronounced tongue jut there. And this indicates disagreement or maybe getting away with something, but I think we're seeing disagreement here more likely. And this isn't spelling out guilt or innocence. And most families have some kind of contention between biological and step parents. Even if it's small, it could show up here with this tongue jut behavior. Again, tongue jut is not a cluster. So as he goes forward to describe this relationship, there's some disagreement and some signs that they don't get along all the time. But not only is that common, he's been openly saying it. He's open about talking about that, and pretty open about the relationship not being perfect. And his blink rate when the biological father is mentioned.
Yeah, I wonder what's up with that. Stacy on TikTok said Sebastian was going to live with his dad for the summer. I don't know if it was just a summer thing or what's up with that. I mean, like I said, I've heard things from somebody that seems credible, but I don't know. But I don't know. I don't get, like I said, I don't get crazy vibes watching this interview. I know some people do. The Soto interview, Madeline Soto's mother and boyfriend, that one gave me like all kinds of weird stuff, and I'm still waiting for more on that. Let me show you something real quick too, as far as because I feel like we have cross stories going on, right, with Sebastian and also Riley. And this is for Riley. One of the bars he was at, Luke's 32 Bridge, made a statement. Lauren sent me this. A statement from TC Restaurant Group at Luke's 32 Bridge. Now, this is Riley, different story, but in the same state, different missing person. In our effort to help the Nashville Metro Police Department missing persons investigation on Riley Strain, we proactively provided detailed information quickly after his visit to our business on March 8th. This information included all security camera footage, photos of Riley at our establishment, with detailed timestamps, transaction records, and staff accounts. Additionally, we proactively engaged in communication with the Tennessee Alcoholic Beverage Commission and will continue to communicate and provide any records needed to aid their ongoing investigation. During Riley's visit to Luke's 32 Bridge, our records show that he purchased and was served 1 alcoholic beverage and 2 waters. At 9:35 p.m., our security team made a decision based on our conduct standards to escort him from the venue through our Broadway exit at the front of our building. He was followed down the stairs with one member of his party. The individual with Riley did not exit and returned upstairs. Our prayers continue to be with Riley's friends and family during this difficult time, and pray for his difficult time and for his safe return. So whenever we jump back on the Riley story, we'll update that. Bio Dad says he plays online with him and stays with him. We're talking about, I shouldn't mix up 2 stories, sorry. I don't want to confuse people. But we're talking about Sebastian. Sebastian's biological father says he plays online with him and stays with him. When he stays with him, Bio Dad's friends would message him saying, "Hey, do you know your kid's online?" Dad would say, "Yeah, I know. He's sitting here." Really? Oh, Bio Dad permanently is what they said. So was there issues at home? Yeah, the one drink thing is kind of weird, right? As far as Riley.
And also goes upward.
Spooky, me too. I want to see that bar footage. I do too.
And
his friend said 4 drinks. I don't know, is the bar trying to cover up for themselves?
Would not say that any of this would indicate a likelihood of suspicion or doubt as to his involvement. And I'm glad they're strict on the internet usage. I wish I had started at a younger age for that. I didn't know how dangerous it was. Scott, what do you got?
How old were you when you first got on the internet then, Chase?
Yeah.
I don't know.
We remember because we were...
Loch Ness Monster says their custody arrangement, Sebastian has always gone to Seth's for the summer.
In the decades old when we got on the internet.
I remember when it started happening, and on the news they were talking about this thing called the internet, and they would spell out this HTTP, www, and all this whole thing you had to go to get mail from somebody or to go to some site, and you'd go. It was so archaic, but at the time it was like, wow, look at all this, and then people now have just grown up with it like it's nothing,
I still have an AOL Messenger account.
With the dial-up.
I wouldn't be telling that, dude.
I remember the first ever email that I sent on CompuServe.
Who is it to?
To Douglas Adams, writer of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. He put his email address at the end. He wrote the editorial at the end of the first edition of Wired magazine in the UK.
Nancy Collins at AOL. Okay, sorry, man. Yeah, so for a few seconds. So they're locked up. I think emotionally they're feeling the same thing, although she looks dramatically different than he does. This happened a couple of times already, as we've talked about. So it's really interesting to see that happen. It's like, again, it's like matching and mirroring. There, you do things you're not conscious of that make you look like that person, or you do things with that person that you're not conscious you're doing. So the big, she says he says the big question mark, she says, big question mark, he's vanished. And the mother whispers, what? Like that. I think what's going on there is when, like, quite often when you get in these traumatic situations where it's so much trauma and you hear him say, well, tell me about whatever. And
True that. Tracy says, as far as Riley, she says, I know a lot of times friends buy rounds of drinks or shots for each other. That could have been the one time he bought a drink for himself. True that.
And years later, they go, I don't even remember that week of what was happening. I don't remember what happened. I remember you being there, but I don't remember anything. I think that's where she is now. I think she's so traumatized, she's not going to be able to remember what this interview, doing things like that. That's what that looks like to me, because I've seen people like that before or go through that. And then when you talk to them, they say, I don't even remember being there. I don't know what I remember that, but I don't remember actually being there. I was gone. So I think that's where she is at this point. And then after the second question, that's when we see that little tongue thing come out. It's almost like some people do when they're angry. So it was kind of odd there. And then the mother, she relays this positive information about the real father, which is cool. And then the stepfather relays information that makes him gives me impression that they probably butt heads a little bit, I think. Then he talks about the disagreements with what's happening with Sebastian at times. But then he explains he gets them worked out. The parents get them worked out as they see fit. But this answer, I don't know where this came from. There was nothing asked about that. But then again, I think it goes back to he's just trying to talk, to have something to say, to feel like, to be a part of it and to connect with everybody on that. And another thing that sticks out is that huge micro expression of contempt. When it comes up on that sentence, I'm in contact with him almost daily, because just as he starts that, we see it go up like that, and this side of his face go up. And I'll put a quick little screenshot in there because I pulled it out to show you. But something's at that point, something's not right there. I think that something that's not right is, of course, there's competition, between the two fathers, the real father and the stepfather. There's going to be a little contention there, and so I think that's what that's about. And remember, we still haven't heard either one of them say his name yet. No, the only person that said his name is the reporter or the interviewer. Mark, what do you got?
Simply a reiteration of everything that's been said here. Certainly the stepfather here becomes more alert the moment the biological father is brought up. I think that's reasonable given the politics of the situation here. It's not irrational to think that would happen to some degree. It's pronounced here because we don't see the father do very much anyway. He's not big, demonstrative with his feelings, so it kind of stands out a little bit here, but it's not out of the ordinary for the situation, I would say.
One of those tape replays.
Did he have any friends that could have possibly contacted him in some way on his phone?
All his friends at school have been questioned to my knowledge, and none of them knew anything.
So this big question mark. He's vanished.
Yes, ma'am.
No one can figure out where or why. All right. So let's talk too about the relationship involved, because the biological father is very much involved in Sebastian's life as well.
Yes, ma'am. Very much.
Right. And how would you describe that relationship, the two of them and the four of you?
It's relatively good. I mean, we talk regularly. He talks to his son on a regular basis, sees him on a regular basis. He's involved in school and therapy. And, I mean, he didn't have any extracurricular activities, but I can tell you now, if he did, his dad would be in the front row.
In two different households, and the communication between the three of us is great. I mean, yes, we're just like every parent. We all have our disagreements, but in the end, we come together as a team and we work and we come up with solutions that as we best see fit. I mean, I'm almost in contact with him almost daily.
Let's talk about Sebastian. Tell me about Sebastian. How would you describe him?
Sweet, stubborn. He loves to help. He loves running, and he loves to play his games and his fidgets and Uno. Lord, that's one of his favorite games right now. Favorite color is green.
Does he love music?
Oh, he loves music.
An eclectic taste.
Eclectic.
I mean, from, as everybody knows, Eye of the Tiger to Eddie Vedder.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So we got Pearl Jam on one hand. We've got Survivor on the other over here. We've got Taylor Swift and...
He's got a big crush on her. I mean, country, rock, classic.
We don't allow the hip hop.
Well,
No. That's. I'm just kidding. Titan or T10. I want to say your name right. I'm sorry if I'm saying it wrong. T10, thank you so much for the coins on TikTok, the dark world of TikTok. Deja Vu, thank you for the 11 months. Says, I would never let a friend leave a bar/club alone, but not everyone actually cares about their friend's well-being. Yeah, I agree. Hey, Stacy. What's up, Stacy? Oh, somebody on TikTok said, I grew up with stepdad's family. Wow. I don't know if it's true, man, but I heard somebody had messaged me saying they know the stepdad too, and that he was kind of a hothead. I mean, that don't mean he's involved or anything, but he was kind of a hothead, multiple marriages, and Sebastian had some problems too and struggles, you know.
He doesn't really get into it anyways.
You mentioned he loved running. So did he love the outdoors at all? I mean, would something outside that was somewhat outdoorsy be enticing to him or pull him outdoors?
He loves, like, when we were in California and the school had this lap thing to gain money. It was a fundraiser. And every year he was, I did this many laps. I mean, I've got T-shirts where they would write on his back. Every time the kids went around, they'd mark a mark on the back and they'd keep running. And he just had marks all the way across his back. He likes playgrounds. He hates being dirty. He don't like being dirty.
Yeah, he's not your tomboy style child where he goes outside and plays in the mud.
He loves animals, but he's terrified of bugs.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, even a fly, and he's like,
All right, Chase, what do you got?
Both of them are expressing truthful recall when they're listing all these things that Sebastian likes to do. They speak about them in present tense, like he's still around. This shows us a couple of things. Parents who know the disposition of a deceased child are more likely to accidentally default to past tense when referring to them. And parents who speak in past tense about a child who aren't involved can show that there's a finality to their feelings, like they no longer have faith in the child returning. So all the expressions here are genuine and unforced. And when they're both of them discussing his likes and dislikes, they're comfortable. All the facial expressions, the gestures, the movements match the syntax and the timing. They speak about all the things in present tense with genuine joy. And parents who are involved with a disappearance, even if they can look back fondly on a child's behaviors are still having to manage perceptions and maintain deception, which keeps them from being this fluid and unconstrained in their descriptions. So this fear of being discovered mutes and muffles these expressions that you're seeing right here in this video that look very genuine to me, at least. Mark, what do you got?
Yeah, the same. Look, very positive comments around the child. Only one negative one, which is about him being stubborn, which is then kind of laughed off, I think, in a very natural way. To be positive about him, and there's every reason why a child on the spectrum reaching teenage years is going to become more and more stubborn often in their behaviors. Not every child of that nature, and not every child, but there is a possibility that this will be a thing for that family at the moment. They get really animated about the Sebastian's love of music. Clearly, that is a joy for them. It's they're proud. Both of them, they're proud, especially the stepfather, I think, shows that real engagement with the son around that music piece. There's clearly, they're proud of his love of music and his engagement with the music. And I think the stepfather seems to show some kind of strong relationship with the son around that music piece. Not the kind of thing that I would expect from two people who've been involved in some kind of crime around the child. Again, do I know that to be true? No, not what I would expect. So you'd need to give me lots of other evidence for me to see that would show me an alternative to this. Show it to me so I could see it, hear it, touch it. You know, we want evidence to the contrary, not just possibilities and ideas and imaginations around it.
Carly sent a bunch of coins on TikTok. Thank you, Carly. And yep, I'm nosy. Thank you. Yep, I noticed I need to see the first interview.
Greg, what do you think?
So let's first talk about clusters of behavior. And we always say you need cluster of behavior to indicate deception, but that's not the only thing clusters of behavior can indicate. You have to look for clusters that are positive, clusters that mean something else.
Bingo.
And there's a great one here. The stepfather's all locked down. He's in internal voice and his eyes zone out. They go out of focus. That means he's thinking to himself. He's inside his own head working. What's consuming him? You could automatically assign guilt to that. But it doesn't necessarily mean guilt. Uncertainty, other things, we can't tell that. What we can see is a cluster of behavior around ask about the child. What we would expect, and you both have just hammered this one, but what we would expect from a person who is trying to hide that they know the child is dead is not happy when they think about the weirdness of this kid who has all these, 14-year-old kids are mostly weird because they're trying to figure out what being an adult is while they're still a child. And this kid has got a lot of that. And they're amused by that. So he comes out of this absorption, this focus, this internal dialogue with a smile when they're talking about him being stubborn. Yeah, he's that. And you see all of that happiness. We know that a person who knows someone is passed, if you lose a child, you may never get back to the point you think positive things when that child is brought up or when you think about the goofiness of things they did. But you certainly wouldn't be okay with it right now. Good indicator. So clusters can be good or bad. We can see the person consumed by something and he doesn't come out of it into a negative, into a perception management, into one of those tools that we think people who have injured somebody or hurt somebody have. And he uses great illustrators when he's talking about, he loved music here, he loved music here, Pearl Jam to look at that all these things together. So all of these pieces, and then real smiles as they talk about bugs and his panic when he would see bugs, they're amused by that. All those things are a cluster that usually would indicate this person's not involved. So I'm going to call that one out loud and clear. And Mark, to your point, can I be wrong? Sure. I'm not 100% right. If you think you're 100% right as a body language reader, you have no clue what you're doing. Let's just call that out right here. That's all I got.
All right. Should I go?
Oh, I thought you'd go.
Yeah, go on.
In that case, Scott, do you think you're
it always seems like I go because I talk first. That's why I'm last again. So I've forgotten. It's okay now. I'll be okay. So just not to reiterate all the stuff you guys went over, not to make it boring. The one thing that I think when they were talking about music, and they started talking about, he started saying how he doesn't let him listen to hip hop, and she says, "Well, he doesn't like that anyway."
Well,
I think he was just putting that in there so to show that he cares about what he listens to, because I think music is
that he's involved, he paid attention, he's listening, he knows.
Probably important to him. Yeah, because a lot of people think hip hop's not music. Well, it's not his kind of music. But it may be one of those things where he doesn't want that kid out repeating what he said, in something that's rap, but he may just talk it and get his hind end busted.
One of those tape replays.
Let's talk about Sebastian. Tell me about Sebastian. How would you describe him?
Sweet, stubborn. He loves to help. He loves running, and he loves to play his games and his fidgets and Uno. Lord, that's one of his favorite games right now. Favorite color is green.
Does he love music?
Oh, God, he loves music.
An eclectic taste.
An
eclectic. I mean, from, as everybody knows, Eye of the Tiger to Eddie Vedder.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So we got Pearl Jam on one hand. We've got Survivor on the other over here. We've got Taylor Swift, and
he's got a big crush on her.
Thanks, up nosy.
I mean, country rock.
No
classic.
We don't allow the hip hop.
Well, he doesn't really
Well, I
get
say
into it
rap and
anyways.
things.
You mentioned he loved running. So did he love the outdoors at all? I mean, would something outside
appreciate that.
was somewhat outdoorsy be enticing to him or pull him outdoors?
He loves, like, when we were in California and the school had this lap thing to gain money. It was a fundraiser. And every year I did this many laps. I did this many laps. I mean, I've got T-shirts where they would write on his back. Every time the kids went around, they'd mark a mark on the back and they'd keep running. And he just had marks all the way across his back. He likes playgrounds. He hates being dirty. He don't like being dirty.
Yeah, he's not your tomboy style child where he goes outside and plays in the mud.
He loves animals, but he's terrified of bugs.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, even a fly, and he's like, oh!
If Sebastian was able to watch this, and maybe he's watching this as it airs, and if he is, what do you want to say to Sebastian? What do you want him to hear from you right now?
Oh, gosh. That we love you so much, and we want you to come home, and you're not in trouble.
I guarantee you he is loved. And trust me, the open arms are waiting for him to come home. From every parent to every family members to probably everyone in the community. But there's no malice. We just want our boy home. Badly. But
That mama's heart, I know it's daddy's too, but I feel like there's always that extra special bond. Can you walk us through what you're thinking right now?
I just want my baby to be okay. I don't know where he's at.
Let's talk about the community, because I want you all to know, even my church body, I mean, we're all praying for his safe return quickly. What do you all want to say to the community?
Thank you.
with everything from the bottom of our hearts. I would not have imagined how far this has gotten, but there's no way to repay the gratitude, the love that we have felt from the community, the prayers. But thank you.
Yeah.
But don't stop looking.
Yeah, please.
T10. Oh my God.
Somewhere.
Blow me up.
This ain't over until he's home.
I'll go first on this one since I've been going last every time, just about. So, I think she gives a heartfelt answer. That's coming right from the heart. That's a mother who's grieving right there. And he doesn't know what to say, so he goes in this cornball thing about the family and open arms and all that. But the thing that bothers me is when he says there's no malice. That's lawyer talk. So, and then he tells, I'll skip that part. So that probably says he's probably spent some time in court. Obviously, he has. And then when he says that, for the reason he would be in court talking about malice, makes me think he might have a little bit of a temper on him. Court talking about malice makes me think he might have a little bit of a temper on him.
I think it's a temper.
That's neither here nor there.
That's not the other person that messaged me corroborated that. That says that person that says she knows the stepdad at
this point. But it sounds like he's trying to convince the mother that he feels for the child. And then we see that upheaval of emotion on her. And that's the thing I always talk about. What's missing from someone who is innocent? You see that. And I think that was when she closed her eyes and she's rocking back and forth and talking in a real quiet volume. And then it hits her again, that horror of what's going on. And she almost loses it there. She shakes out of it, and then she ends up putting her hand to her mouth. Now, if it had been fake, I think what would have happened was she would have done that and put her hand up to her mouth at the same time. But it was just, it was not even a thought, but it came up after that. I think we almost watched her lose it. I think we were really close on that. So I think that's real. But I don't think the dad knows what the word gratitude means by the way he's using it. So I think, again, that lets me know he's just talking and adding stuff in there just to have a lot to talk about during that. Greg, what do you got?
Yeah, I think this emotion is real. I'm going to probably be a little bit of outlier here. But I think the emotion is real. I can't tell you why. I mean, we can assume we understand why. But if it were not real, listen to the interviewer. Now, the interviewer, interestingly, has been using the past tense to describe this kid all throughout the interview because that's what she does for a living, and she's gotten to that point. When the mother comes apart is interesting because they ask the question, if he can hear you. Now, I'm going to assume that that's because she's taking the gravity of the moment, but also assume if you had some part or feel like you had some part, even if it's just guilt because the kid is gone, you would have that same emotional outburst or emotional release. Because if you think you caused the person to disappear, if you think you did something that caused that kid to run away and then something happened, you would feel a hell of a lot of guilt. So is it guilt? Is it feelings of sadness just from sadness? Can't tell that. What we can see is it's real emotion, heartfelt, feels it, and you can tell it by the person coming there. There's also one on his side that makes me feel a little uncomfortable, not the malice piece. Well, agreed, that probably is something he picked up from someone else. He says, we just want our boy here, but with a big old tongue jut. That's awkward. Now, that could be, Chase, you brought it up early, that he has a feeling of something, he's trying to project something else, but it's awkward. This is the single most awkward thing in the entire video to me. And it would not be if he just said, we want our boy home, but if he didn't do the tongue jut, I'd say, okay, just one weird pattern of words because he's had a couple. But it just makes me want to lean over and tap him and say, why do you say but? Why? Are you losing confidence in the search? I would make it about something else to get him to talk. But look, guys, this is an emotional time for these two people. It doesn't matter what's causing it. But this area, I would focus on those two just to pay attention and listen to their words moving past this. And we will, and see if something comes back up to give us some indicator. So far, I've heard things like, we heard things about friends, and we heard things around in trouble, around resistant and spat, and so fighting. So there's probably been some baggage associated with this that would cause her to feel something. So I'll give her the benefit of the doubt there and say, Mark, what do you got?
Yeah, you're right, Greg. The but is, whatever the weather, is certainly a loss of confidence. What that loss of confidence is about, given that there's a lot of a setup of needing hope, especially at this point, and it could be a loss of confidence around that. I don't know. Could be. It's a speculation that I'm having. Okay, so I would say you're absolutely right. The mother is close to not being able to contain her emotions anymore. It's affecting the interviewer now. We hear that interviewer's voice change when the interviewer talks about the community. We can hear that interviewer taking on the same rhythm and emotion as the mother. I would say the father has been in cognitive empathy throughout this, and he's now moving to emotional empathy. He's close to joining in with emotional empathy for the mother, close to having the same emotion. My assumption is he's been playing the role of strength and order during this, just as maybe Chase or Scott, I can't remember which of you said, if both people start taking the role of going down that well of emotion, like who's there to control that?
Okay. Froggy Mickey says, will you do Legion's reply to who the F did I marry? It's insane. I wanted to do it. I tried emailing the creator because I wanted to get his blessings to use the video. I haven't gotten a reply back. I'm not sure how to reach out to him. Let me check my email again. Yeah, he never wrote me back. I don't know if he checks his emails or not. I don't know if I should just leave him a comment under his video.
You've got to have, if everybody goes down that route, it's complete chaos. Nothing wrong with going down that route, but in a partnership, you kind of need, one partner to hold on to the steering wheel while the other goes down that route, and vice versa. Who knows what happens with that stepfather outside of an interview, and what happens with the mother outside of that interviewer. The two roles could change instantly. Here's what I like about what I hear at the end of this. Don't stop looking, and the stepfather immediately comes in with please. Well, for somebody, if we're thinking here that this is somebody who's involved in a crime, you'd never jump in immediately with please. You'd hold back with that. You'd wait and see. This ain't over till he's home, and that stress on home. So look, I think for me, from what I see there, from the evidence that I see in this particular video, there seems to be quite a conflict here between the hope of getting the kid home and a reality at 8 days in as to but what's the likelihood at this point? Statistics never look good at 8 days. Chase, what do you got on this one?
Yeah, y'all have some really great points, really insightful points here on this. And I agree, this is what true grief looks like. When the reporter suggests Sebastian's wife, about how people see her, she's not managing her words and how she's being perceived. So when you're guilty and you know the discipline, you can
to 11. Are we doing?
Can you walk us through what you're thinking right now?
I just want my baby to be okay. I don't know where he's at. I don't know where he's at.
Damn, yep, I'm nosy. You guys are sending so much love
I want you all to
on
know.
TikTok.
Even my church body. I mean, we're all praying. We're all praying for his safe return quickly. What do you all want to say to the community?
Thank you.
With everything from the bottom of our hearts. I would not have imagined how far this has gotten, but there's no way to repay the gratitude, the love that we felt from the community, the prayers. But thank you.
But
from
don't
the bottom of
stop
our hearts.
looking.
Yeah, please.
My son is somewhere.
This ain't over until he's home.
Yeah, I mean, clearly mom's struggling. Wow. I don't know what to think, man. I really don't know. I'm just lost. I'm lost with, with the Riley thing, I have more of a thought of like, I don't think it was nefarious. I don't think, you know what I mean? You never know. I think he ended up somewhere, possibly in the water. I just don't know why he hasn't turned up yet. How long is that going to take? Sebastian, I'm truly like baffled. Baffled, man. Sebastian Rogers. What's the other interview they did?
Now been 2 weeks since Sebastian Rogers was reported missing. Crews have searched high and low and followed every lead, but still together.
Light vigil
is vision inner.
Now finally speaking out publicly on TV 2 weeks after the teen disappeared, the father's
That's my main hope right now.
That is his focus. Seth Rogers wants to believe his son is still alive somewhere. He says he is in contact with law enforcement every single day, and like them, he says he is completely at a loss to explain exactly what happened to his son. It's a mystery. The working story, of course, is that Sebastian, who has autism, walked away from his Hendersonville home in the middle of the night, barefoot and alone. But Rogers says no. He says it makes absolutely no sense that search crews and bloodhounds have found no trace of the boy, and he says Sebastian was not the type of child who would just wander away like this on his own.
In order for him to actually do something that's out of the normal, something would have had to happen that he just felt that he couldn't deal with anymore.
What that is and how, no one really knows. And
Odd. All right. So I think that's it for now, man. We'll be following. I don't know what's gonna this weekend. I'm gonna probably chill, but I do want to watch the interview of that. Not the interview, the testimony of that mother that shot her own child. I do want to keep looking for updates with regards to Sebastian or Riley. Tonight at 7 p.m. we're doing a members live. It's gonna be crazy. I think. I don't know. You can send in your questions. 7 p.m. Eastern. Send in your questions. We're doing Ask My Girlfriend About Me. Members live, so it's gonna be wild. Yep, I'm nosy. Thank you for the coins. Almost 2,000 coins. Teton, thank you for the almost 2,000 coins. And Carly, I know you sent a bunch of coins too. Thank you so much. I'm curious to see how the chases are gonna be when we do this multi-stream TikTok thing. I didn't have much success before, but we'll see now. We'll try again. Well, I'm streaming on YouTube and TikTok and everywhere else. On Facebook. It's a little bit of a pain switching between different profiles, but we'll try it out. After the members live, I'll set everything up to go live on a second channel tonight, iCkEdMeL CC, so make sure you subscribe over there. I think I have notifications on iCkEdMeL CC. Let me double check. The night is young. The day is young. Anything can happen. It's Friday night. I hope we get something popping off. I have 2 notifications on the second channel, and in a few hours, I'll have 3. All right, iCkEdMeL CC. On the main channel, I have none right now. In 3 hours, I have 1. So yeah, for tonight, second channel as far as chases and craziness and standoff and all that stuff. And we'll see. Vic said better cash it before TikTok's gone. Yeah, I don't know what's gonna happen on TikTok. They say y'all gonna be done. No. Not TikTok, man. How come TikTok won't give me that warning everybody else is getting? Maybe I'm not a factor on TikTok, so I don't get the warning. Okay. All right. I will talk to you guys. I'll see you guys in a bit. I'm going to relax, prepare for tonight. It's going to get wild. Thank you guys for coming through. Thank you guys for TikTok. Everybody at TikTok. The world of TikTok.